Russell Shoatz, who is a political prisoner here in the United States. I'm here at the Social Forum because I did a panel this morning which really addressed the issues of prison and the Prison Industrial Complex Center and the capitalism surrounding the prison system and the effect that the prison industrial complex has on family members who have loved ones in prison. Today, my father has been in 40 years. He's approaching 70 years of age, and he's been in solitary confinement for some 30 years. Could be more, but the prison officials don't want to address the real amount of time that he's been in solitary confinement because it's inhumane. Outside of being inhumane, so many people who are being forced into solitary confinement are mentally unable to handle that type of confinement. We're finding that younger folks who are now entering the prison and are sometimes being punished with solitary confinement do not make it out of solitary confinement. Some of them are committing suicide and they're dying behind bars. We're finding a lot of mental ill folks who should be diagnosed as so are being forced into a cell, and they're screaming out for treatment, for medical attention, but they're not receiving it, and a lot of those mentally ill folks are taking their lives also. Today, the panel that I attended, it was very forceful in explaining the issues around the prison system and capitalism and families being affected by the prison system. We're finding that, as Michelle Alexandra stresses in the first 2 paragraphs of her book, The New Jim Crow, is that prisoners, especially ex-offenders coming home from prison in the black community, are being almost put into like a caste system that's being created where they're unable to find jobs. And I look at it almost as being like third world, like creating a new third world where people are financially just unstable and don't have monies to survive a daily normal life. I would also say that outside of the ex-offenders being deeply affected economically, our youth are being affected. We really are at a point where not only are black males being in prison, our black women are being in prison also. We have, our communities are devastated. We have Pennsylvania prison. Pennsylvania has a lot of prisons already, and I'm working with a group, Decarcerate PA, who now wants to introduce their own platform for what to do with $600 million. Instead of building prisons, we should be building communities. We should actually put $600 million into training and educating prisoners who are to be released soon. Instead, the Pennsylvania state government wants to build 2 more prisons and expand one existing prison, SCI Graterford. The worst part about the expansion on SCI Graterford is that they're going to introduce 200 to 400 beds for women. Now, this is a big assault on women and our community and our youth. If you have a state that don't care about women, you really don't care about our youth. You don't care where we're headed. So therefore, I'm working with Decarcerate PA also, who will fight at every level to stop the construction of any additional prisons in Pennsylvania. Also, what I've been doing, and ever since I was a kid, I tell this story all the time. My dad has been in jail for so long that when I first began visiting my dad, I looked at the prisons as like a big campus. They were well manicured grads, and I thought it was a big university. In reality, I got a real dose of reality when one Christmas I had forwarded my daddy a 50-cent piece in the mail for Christmas. And when he called home, I said, Dad, did you get my 50-cent piece? And he said, oh, baby, don't do that. The guards probably took it. And I vowed that day, I didn't tell anyone, that I would take care of any guard that I seen. The first guard upon my next visit would understand that I was very upset about my dad not receiving that 50-cent piece. So my aunt called and said, we're going to take you to see your dad. And I was so happy. And we took the trip there. And as soon as I walked inside the prison doors, I kicked the first guard I came upon straight in the balls. And I didn't care. They made a big issue out of it. And they said, you'll never see your dad again. And I said, I don't care, because I did what I had to do, and you shouldn't have took my daddy's Christmas money. And they said, is this what this is about? You shouldn't send no money here. He won't get anything anyway. I said, well, I will be a thorn in your side from now on. And here I am now. Who would have ever thought 40 years later still fighting on behalf of my dad? And I can't imagine now when I think about it what my dad must have felt. You know, the guards placed me in a yard by myself alone. I didn't get to see my dad that evening, and that visit, and I was just thinking how sorry I was for my aunts taking the time out to travel that long distance to see my dad, and then I couldn't see him. But I know he must have been very upset and very concerned about me being in the custody of these guards while everyone else visited with my dad. But now I know that he said that one is going to stick by me. That one will be my backbone throughout this. I still couldn't have imagined that it would be 40 years. What I think of now also, and I'm a bottom line that visit, was that had it been today, what about our youth now that are affected by this prison system and that are mad as hell at this prison system, that may have a mother or father in prison and do the same thing that I did? They may be arrested. At that time, I was carried out by two guards. They both held me up by my arms and carried me out to a yard and made me sit outside of the prison. Today, if our youth were to stand up and do something like what I did, they would probably be sent to a juvenile hall or either convicted of assault. So when I think about that, I just think about where we have come, how big the prison system has gotten. When I look at corporations thinking that they can set up next door to a prison and have workers from inside of the prison, I'm talking prisoners, work for their corporations at fees that are lower than any sweatshop. And we are here in the United States totally against sweatshops, and we feel like it's something we need to do to protect kids who are working in sweatshops outside of the United States. We need to think about what's going on right here inside of America, where prisoners are being used to work, to assemble, work, or whatever job there is that the prison is forcing them to do at wages that it's just inhumane, and I'm totally against it, and I'm going to continue to fight against it. So with Russell Shoatz now, let me explain his case. He's been in solitary confinement now for 32 years. Now, there's a big there's an open door now with some media, some conscious medias who are looking into this solitary confinement thing. There are people stepping forward to say that move over. Oh. Okay. So Russell Shoatz has been in solitary confinement now some 40 years. And what that means is 23-hour lockdown, only 1 hour out of the cell. And even with that 1 hour out of the cell, he's alone inside of a big cage, almost like a dog cage, and it's fenced, and there's no one there. And this type of housing, it leaves you alone, and it leaves you alone with yourself, and it leaves you all caught up in your thoughts, and it's a bad place to be. I can't imagine being locked inside of a bathroom with a toilet and just myself, not for 23 hours a day. I challenge anyone to do that and to then think about prisoners outside of my dad that are being held in this type of confinement. Fortunately, my father has a support base, which he receives quite a mail every week, and this support network that he is in touch with outside of the prison, he receives letters from supporters, and he's always up on what's the latest book to read. Therefore, he's keeping the wheels constantly spinning in his brain, and therefore he doesn't have time to focus just on himself or just being inside of that prison. Sometimes when I think about it, not only could I not stay inside of a bathroom for 23 hours a day, I couldn't imagine eating the same food for 40 years. I mean, we take for granted our opportunity to go out and mingle with folks and to have dinner and to have drinks with folks, where as my dad and other prisoners like him who are forced to be in a cell 23 hours a day are forced to eat the same food. And I began something last year. I started being very concerned with the way that our food is being grown. And I'm talking about people who are supposed to be so-called free. I'm very interested in what I'm eating now, what chemicals have been placed in growing that food to prevent weeds from taking over the fruit. And I'm very concerned very much about cows being injected with steroids to produce more meat, more milk. And what I thought about in reference to what's going on with our food, our produce, and the production of the food that we are forced to eat, I thought about prisoners. And I thought about, what is my dad eating on a daily basis? When I tried to look into his daily menu, I was hit with like a wall. The prison officials did not want to address what's in the food that he's eating. Now Daddy has said that he's receiving food packages, iced tea packages now, that doesn't have any writing on it. Doesn't tell you what's inside of that package, this so-called iced tea drink. So when we think about what's happening to our foods and our seeds for our fruits and vegetables that's being manipulated now, think about what that prisoner is forced to eat. You know, it's something to think about, and I'm still trying to find out what he's eating, and the prison officials don't want to tell me. So there's a lot of issues going on behind bars. I would really love for our communities to come together. We're big in this prison bubble, and that prison bubble is going to burst, and it's going to take us as a community, as us, the 99%, those occupiers throughout the country, to burst this prison bubble.